all of you beautiful people out there. I haven't posted anything in forever and I am terribly sorry for that. I've wanted to post something, but then the last couple of weeks I've been incredibly busy. I have barely been home, so I'm really sorry. I hope I'll manage to post more soon. Yeah, so this I decided very spontaneously. It's actually the day of my first exam of my second semester in uni. So in a couple of hours I have my marketing exam and I'm just so terribly bored. I don't know why, I'm not stressed at all, it's very weird. But I figured I could just make a video and yeah. And a lot of what I've been posting recently has been spoken word, so a lot of people ask me how do you write, like what makes you write something. So I figured maybe I could try and answer that question. So, first thing, before I start writing, I need inspiration, obviously. I can't just write with nothing. A lot of stuff that I write is very personal and very what I'm feeling in the moment that I'm writing it. And I write quite a lot very spontaneously. It's sort of like a diary, it's sort of like my therapy. And it's very interesting to read these poems even a couple of days later because I might feel completely different than what I felt in that moment. But yeah, this is like my first part of inspiration. Then the second part is poems that are completely not personal to me. So about nature or about putting myself in a completely different position. I wrote a poem from a view of a soldier once, or from a view of a little girl that goes into the forest and gets really scared. So I try to put myself into different positions. But really, those poems happen when I just feel like writing a poem, but I don't know what about. Usually I just start with writing my first sentence, and then I'll see what rhymes with the first sentence, and I'll see sort of where the poem is going, and then just try to follow it. So when I was writing about the girl going into the forest, I started with a line that sort of sounded like a fairy tale, and I wrote the second line and I realized it was getting really dark, and I just kept going with that. And yeah, I don't necessarily think about what I'm going to write about before I do. And then another inspiration is news, obviously. When something happens that I care about or that I feel touched, then I will write about it, and that's usually something that I wrote very quickly and very spontaneously. So how do I write? There's different versions. I usually write very quickly. So if you give me 5 minutes, I could probably write you half a page of a poem, and if you give me 10, I'll write you 2 pages. But that's just how I personally do it. But when I started out, it took a lot longer for me to write something because I really had to think about everything, and nowadays I just sort of write it down. And that's also why I love spoken word and why I love doing it in English, is because for me it's really easy to just go with the flow, and there's no structure. It's just really like, to me it's just like writing a text for a book or for an essay or something, except that some of the parts rhyme. And that's something that I find very important, is that you don't necessarily have to stick to structure. I did that a lot when I first started out. My first poems, they all have 4 lines and a break, and 4 lines and a break, and 4 lines and a break, and it all has like a rhyming structure, and I don't do that now anymore. I do that sometimes, but if I really just write about what I'm feeling or write very spontaneously, it's usually just really the flow. And I think it's really important to know that when you start, because the structure can be quite scary, that you don't necessarily need to have that. You don't need to rhyme each sentence with the next one. That's not something you need to do. Now, when we actually had poetry in school, like analyzing and stuff, I was absolutely awful at it. Like, I was so bad because I had no idea how you had to rhyme things and how to count all the syllables and everything. I was so bad at it. So don't be scared. That doesn't mean you can't write. Yeah, it's okay when you start out to be really bad. If you look at the poems I wrote when I was 13 or 14, they are awful. Seriously, I read them a week or 2 ago. I was going through them because I was looking for something. I can't even laugh at it because I'm so embarrassed. They're really bad. So it takes a lot of practice. I've been practicing for years now, and still I write poems that I think are really bad. So you have to do it over and over and over again, especially to get into that flow and to find new rhymes. Because when you look at the poems, like the first 5 in my poetry book, I promise you 80% of the rhymes are exactly the same in each poem, because I couldn't rhyme anything else. And you just have to practice over and over to really get there. And like I said, it's fine if you suck in the beginning, don't be discouraged, just keep on going, because it could turn out to be quite good in the end. And it's also okay if you start writing and you don't know how to continue. You have no idea how many pieces of paper I have where there's something scribbled out in the beginning because I started writing something that I couldn't continue, or I started writing like 5 poems and each of them sucked and I didn't know how to continue, so I stopped. There's entire pages of just started poems that never made it into an entire poem because I just couldn't figure it out, and that's entirely fine. It happens all the time that you start writing something and you don't know how to continue. It's completely normal. It's happened to me a lot. So don't worry about that. And it's okay if you completely switch around the topic of your poem. Sometimes I want to write about something specific and I realize that I can't really think of anything, and then I just switch and I write about something completely different. And it's okay. Now, sharing your poetry is a whole other level. I didn't share my poems for quite long. I shared them with my teacher who inspired me to start writing, but I also sort of stopped with that because my poems, they are very personal. So I wrote usually when I wasn't feeling too well, so the poems were quite dark. So I didn't really want to share them with anyone because they were really, really personal. But it's your decision if you want to share something, if you don't want to share something, what you want to share, and you have the liberty to do whatever you want. Nowadays I'm very confident in my poems, I'm very confident in talking about what I'm going through and how I'm feeling, so I share that with you guys. But you don't have to share anything if you don't want to. I know it's a big step to show someone a poem that is very personal to you. It still happens to me sometimes when I write something about someone else and I show them. I feel quite scared of their reaction. So it's fine if you don't want to share it. You can keep it to yourself. No one's gonna blame you for that because, no one's gonna know. Anyway. I hope this helped a little bit. It was so spontaneous. I'm terribly sorry. I hadn't prepared anything for this video. I'm really sort of like in my pajamas. And there's food in the oven that's gonna be done in a minute, and then I have to leave for my exam. So I hope that it still made you happy because I posted something, and I'll try, I really, really want to try, once I'm done with exams and I'm home, to post more and do more. Even though I have to work, I'll find time. I promise you that, because I miss YouTube, and I want to definitely come back and do more. And yeah, I hope this helped somehow. If you have some comments on how you write or what helped you, or if you have questions, of course you can always ask them. I'll be happy to answer. And yeah, hopefully I will see you guys soon. Bye!